Welcome back, everybody, to Jedi Eternal episode 31. We passed the great threshold of episode 30. Wow.
Whoa!
Here we are on episode 30. Today, I'm your co-host, Braxton Taylor, here with my beautiful friend and co-host, Andrew, the Pretty Maid Bolin. Well, he's coming in here for the podcast, and his wife comes in here, Tara, and she's like, "Oh, Andrew, you look so good in here. Thank you for cleaning up," or whatever. I don't even remember what she said. And I'm like, I just imagine Andrew in here with his little maid outfit. Dusting. Oh, okay. That looks so good.
My high stockings.
Like black dress with the white apron.
Yeah, my little hat, you know. I look pretty good in it, too.
That would be pretty good. I'd love to take a picture of that. Anyway, sir, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Pretty good. I'm just happy to host another episode of this beautiful show here.
Another week goes by. We yet to see the Mandalorian trailer.
Oh, we draw near and near every week and still will not get anything. In fact, we're going to talk about it here in a second, but we even get some pictures and everything. We're still not getting the episode, so pretty interesting stuff. I'm not sure
but now that we've got that first look, I think it's coming soon.
Yeah, and we have some talks today. We have a news piece and a rumor talking about The Mandalorian Season 2 and the trailer. So we're going to have some more to talk about, but let's go ahead and get directly into the news. Our first news look today is actually The Mandalorian related to this. Let me see here. Okay, so we're getting new looks at Mandalorian Season 2, and that comes from, what was it here? It was from Entertainment Weekly, and on their magazine, they went ahead with the fall TV preview, and they had posted several different pictures that were related to Mandalorian Season 2. And you can find these anywhere on the internet right now.
Yeah, it's all over.
Yeah, so I was just going to go over a couple of them here. So the main cover was a picture of Baby Yoda. And of course, you got... he's sitting like by the feet of the Mandalorian here. Mm-hmm. And the background, it almost looks like a lava-based planet, so that's interesting. So go on, you see...
That's probably... They were somewhere already like that at the end of the first season, correct?
Maybe.
Right?
Because they're I thought it was on Tatooine.
No, not at the end, right? Because they're riding on the lava boat.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I forgot about that. Yeah, it's been a second. It's actually been since... Did last December?
I've actually not seen.
I've not rewatched it. Yeah.
Well, I've watched some of the episodes, but I've not seen the end since we watched it together all that time ago.
The Mandalorian is one of those beautiful things where I just didn't want to watch it. Where, I don't think I get tired of it. But, it's just something special.
Yeah, I plan to rewatch it again before the season comes out, though.
That's my plan as well. So anyway, you just go through and you see pictures of some of the old cast. So nothing too crazy or new. Him riding a speeder. I'm just reading some of the comments here, and Favreau is mentioning, and he will also command a quote-unquote a larger vehicle, hint, hint, and spend some time with the child. So it's very possible that the Mando might be getting a new ship and everything. There's just a lot of very simple, straightforward pictures of a lot of the main characters, and then we get one of Grand Moff Gideon, or I don't know if he's Grand, but Moff Gideon. So that's pretty cool. I mean, nothing too crazy, nothing too extraordinary out of the ether here, but a lot of cool stuff. It's just cool that we're getting some new looks. That's the biggest thing for me. We haven't had the trailer. We're just a month shy, pretty much, of getting the season itself, and we still haven't seen a trailer. So at least it's cool that we're seeing some screenshots of what's going on, and we're getting some movement there. So after looking at these pictures, Drew, has anything stuck out to you as you've seen these?
Yeah, actually, the one thing that has stuck out to me is we see this picture here. That we got Mandalorian standing here in the front, and we posted this picture on our Facebook, I believe. And you got, I can't remember his name. Oh man, what is his name? Do you remember his name?
Wait, which picture are you?
This one here.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember his name? Because I cannot remember it at all. I'm so bad with names. We need like a
Star Wars
sheet
fans.
that like shows characters' names. Like I'm not even kidding. I'm so bad with names. I like right now. I could probably bring my wife in here and she could tell us all three of these names without hesitation. She remembers every name of every character in any story.
Oh man,
I can't remember any of them.
Yeah, I'm pretty bad. Obviously, like I can't even remember my own name half the time, let alone some Star Wars character's name. So
you still don't know what I'm talking about?
I know who it is. I don't know what his name is.
I'm just gonna look it up.
Wow.
We talk about him all the time too. That's what's funny about it.
He's the bounty giver. I don't know.
Carl Weathers.
Oh, I thought you meant like the character's name. Yeah, I could have told his actor's name.
Well, no. Well, I don't remember either.
Oh, okay.
Grief Karga, that's his name.
I barely even remember hearing it in the show, so cut us some slack. I don't even remember his name being in the show.
Anyways,
that much.
what's interesting about his character in this is based from the first season, he has like that mustache going on, right, and like a black mustache. In this, he has a white beard.
Yeah,
okay,
that's interesting.
Or like a white goatee, I guess. And so some people are wondering if maybe that means that this takes place some time later, right?
Yeah, there was already some speculation with that because with Baby Yoda in that one picture looking a little taller or whatever, which we don't really think that that's the case, but
yeah. So I just think it's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, is this just Carl Weathers decided to
let the old hair dye go for
and they just kind of just let it go by and they're like they just didn't really think about it, or is this intentionally like trying to show age has like some time has passed? So I don't know for sure on that, but continuing with that story, there's a couple things that in this article that's pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, Jon Favreau describes this new season as about introducing a larger story in this world.
Yeah.
And, we've talked before about how maybe there's rumors that maybe this is going to start a larger universe of stories that all intertwine and interconnect.
Right.
Which
that's what's been pointing to.
Which, of course, Star Wars already does that, but we're talking about more specifically branching off from The Mandalorian and telling these different stories.
Right.
And he goes on to say, the stories become less isolated, yet each episode has its own flavor, and hopefully we're bringing a lot more scope to the show. Again, I feel like this kind of goes along with that thought. But then EW, which is Entertainment Weekly, reports that Season 2 will consist of 8 episodes, which we were just speculating on that last week. And then... and this part kind of hurts me, kind of pains me a little bit. Favreau does say there's probably even variation in episode lengths.
That better mean it gets longer.
No, we both know that means there's going to be like a 25, there's going to be like a 21-minute episode.
Well, kind of backtracking a little bit, you was talking about how introducing a larger story. Later on in the article, it says that Filoni added to what had been said and said, everything gets bigger. The stakes get higher. But also the personal story between the child and the Mandalorian develops in a way I think people will enjoy. Yeah. So it's interesting.
Yeah, it really does. Everything I'm hearing here really does sound like we're taking the Mandalorian. This show still focuses on him, but we're opening it up to this larger stories and characters you're going to meet that are then going to branch off into possibly their own shows, is really what I'm getting from this. And then there's something else in this article that was interesting as well. Let's see if I can find it.
There was a quote from Giancarlo that he was talking about. I'll go ahead and read it. I don't know if that's what you're talking about, but it's pretty cool.
Go for it.
It says, Giancarlo Esposito, or Moff Gideon, said about the storyline for the new season, I will be going toe-to-toe with Mando. It's an iconic battle. I want to disarm him mentally as well as physically. Who knows? Maybe there's an opportunity to get him to fight some battles for me. You may think I'm a villain, but I'm trying to harness some energy and some powers for a path that could be best for all. You'll get to see him be somewhat diplomatic and more of a manipulator. It's so easy.
We've never heard so much detail about a character.
He goes on to say, it's so exciting for me to be in a show where I can wear a cape and own it, and where I can give a lightsaber and really own
it. I just love him.
Man. Yeah. So... yeah, first of all, it's very descriptive.
Yeah, he's told us so much about his character without really telling us anything at all.
Yeah. So it's gonna be interesting. Well, I mean, obviously, every solid, villain, no matter what story it is, if it's a good villain, usually there's some aspects you're like, okay, wait, I can kind of see why they're doing that. I agree with
Right.
what
There's
they're
a
doing,
purpose to it that you can almost see why they're doing.
Right.
Instead of it just being like, ooh, I'm evil just to be evil.
Right. Yeah, like the 1920s, like what was it?
Which I guess you could argue that's exactly
yeah.
what the Emperor is, but
yeah, true. But that was made in the 1970s, so whatever.
Also, I really like this picture of that we get a Tusken Raider riding a bantha, which is great. Also, pretty great after our last episode's conversation about the banthas. So I had a little chuckle when I saw that this new picture won.
Yeah. You guys listen to the last episode know what I'm talking about.
And the last thing I did want to mention is that they also talked about that this is this season begins right after the previous.
Interesting.
So if nothing else, it does begin directly after. That doesn't mean the whole season will continue that.
Could there be a pause within the season itself?
Right. There could be like maybe the first episode continues off and then like it jumps forward. Well, you never know. But
and with Giancarlo's comment, he does say that he tries to even get the Mandalorian to work for him a little bit. So who knows? Maybe there is like a pause there, and there's an epic battle in the very first episode, and some way either come to agreements or he's being manipulated or whatever. Fast forwards in time, and so who knows? You never know.
Yeah.
So let's we spent quite a bit of time on that. So
if you guys haven't seen those pictures yet, go check them out. It's something to be excited about, right?
Absolutely.
We're finally getting a first look. I do believe that this first look means that a trailer is not far behind. It has to be close now, that especially since we're getting some images. So be on the lookout for that. As soon as we know, we'll let you guys know for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we're going to move on to our second story. And that is something that Timothy Zahn has told us about with Thrawn. He had an interview mostly talking about his new book, Chaos Rising. But there was a little bit more here that I found very interesting. While they were interviewing him, they asked him about Thrawn after Rebels, sorry. And just kind of talking about a post-Rebels future. And Thrawn, he went ahead and said this.
Zahn.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Did I say Thrawn?
Timothy Thrawn.
Thinking about it now, did you think he named it kind of similar to his own name on purpose?
Oh, I have there's no way. There's no way.
So they asked him basically whether or not he has a hand in telling a post-Rebels story of Thrawn.
Mm-hmm.
And Zahn said, I have no idea. As far as I know, Ezra and Thrawn are still locked in Dave Filoni's basement, and he gets first crack at deciding what, if anything, gets done with them. He's got so many other projects that I don't know if or when he'll ever get to that. I keep my fingers permanently crossed that he will decide I'm not going to do anything. Zahn, tell that story. And either letting me do what I want or we collaborate, work out the storyline together. Zahn even has an idea for how he and Filoni might tell two sides of that story. He says, my personal preference, if I was running the universe for a few months, would be for Dave to do the animated series of Ahsoka and Sabine hunting for Ezra, while I do a series of books set 5 years earlier, right after Star Wars Rebels, and then do big strikes back and forth between them.
So first of all, that has to be incredibly inconvenient for him to have his fingers permanently crossed. But no, but second of all, I agree. That actually sounds really cool. Like there's an animated series of Ahsoka and Sabine, and then all the while, like the books are following Thrawn and Ezra. Like that would be pretty cool.
I think that would be really neat.
That would be pretty awesome.
And of course, I think to not have Timothy Zahn involved in a story with Thrawn is a mistake.
Oh yeah, easily.
He basically is Thrawn, right? Like he's the mind of Thrawn, and so, and of course he's going to tell that story best in a book. So I think that this could really work to tell these stories back and forth, and then eventually, you do end up getting both of them together, which of course would probably be in the animated series or maybe even a one-off movie or something, maybe that finally tells the like climatic ending of that story. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I do think that this is probably more of a wish than anything, because I don't see them intertwining a book and a show that much. They're gonna want probably to show that on Disney Plus for everyone to see.
Right. Most likely.
But if they were to take it that serious and they were to have that book series, I would absolutely love that. So
yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm not a huge book reader, as everyone well knows at this point, but that would give me some big inspiration to read it, just because I love that. I mean, I would love to see the resolution of that story, and if it was like inexplicably intertwined with a show like that,
yeah,
I would. That would give me some pretty good inspiration for sure. So
Definitely.
I would not mind to see that at all. For sure. So without further ado, let's go ahead and move on there. So our third news piece for the day comes from StarWarsNews.net. Or excuse me, net.com. And this is everywhere, though, and originally, actually, I think it was on Jimmy Fallon that this interview had occurred. But Daisy Ridley actually confirmed that, quote-unquote, Rey Kenobi was definitely on the table as talks when they was kind of discussing her character in the final discussion of Rise of Skywalker and how it's going to conclude, and if she was going to remain as the nameless face, or if she was actually going to be, Kenobi or a Skywalker, or come to find out a Palpatine. So there, like I said, she was basically saying there's two ideas on the table, and Kenobi was one of them. So I'm going to read her quote because Jimmy Kimmel Live. Blah, blah, blah. I think Josh Gad was actually talking to her, but anyway, she says, at the beginning there was toying with an Obi-Wan connection. There were like different versions. Ridley explained that she had lots of different ideas as they were making movies, including the concept that she was really nobody, which is what they seemingly went with in The Last Jedi, before turning around and explaining that there was more to the story. And it goes on to say a couple different things, but that was kind of the main point, is that when they were talking, they had kind of bounced around the idea of either Palpatine or Kenobi. So that was actually something that at the very beginning, like before Episode 7, Drew and I had been talking about, like, oh, how cool would it be if she was a Kenobi?
Right, yeah.
So
that was always one of my favorite versions. And, there's a lot of, like, how does that even work?
Well, and that's what I was about to ask you. I was going to say, looking back now, seeing everything we've seen, and you and I, it's Star Wars, we love it, but we don't have the best opinion of how some of the things turned out in the sequel trilogy. Knowing what we know, and hearing that Kenobi really was in the talks of being in her lineage or whatever, right? Would that have been something that you would have wanted still at this point? Would it be something you preferred, or would you just keep it the same?
I think I could have really went for it if they made it a big deal, like that was part of her story, and like if they included Obi-Wan like actually like coming and talking to her and that kind of thing. I think it could have really stood out and had like a really cool plot line there. But at the same time, my problem, and what I get stuck on, is this is the Skywalker saga. And so my issue with Rey has always been that she is the main focal point of this story, and she's not a Skywalker.
Exactly.
And so in the end, I still think this story would have been better if she had been Luke's daughter.
I agree.
I think that a lot of this would have been, and you can say, well, that's, and I'm sure too predictable. And I think that was one of the main reasons why they never did it, because they felt like it was just too predictable. It's just too straightforward. But the problem is, if we're going to continue this saga, they chose to continue the saga. It needs to be a Skywalker story. Well, and you can argue Ben.
Right, yeah.
And
but they could have followed him a lot more closely than they did, and they didn't.
Right, right.
And I'll say the problem is with the modern day storytelling is that everybody is just so hardcore chasing the next gasp moment, the next huge drop, the next big thing that will be on the headlines for the next 5 weeks of saying, oh, this is the craziest thing in cinematic history. Like, so much so that they will destabilize a set storyline just to give you some jaw drop moment that you didn't expect. Well, sometimes the things that we don't expect aren't the best things, right? Yeah. Sometimes something unexpected isn't what the story needs. If you watch, and this isn't the best example, but sometimes with stories like Game of Thrones, right? You get these really, really big characters that people love, and all of a sudden, like, bang, their head gets chopped off or something, right? Like, why? In the chase of, in the chase of having the next big gasp moment or next big twist, sometimes you can destabilize things that the fans really want because you as the writer are trying to fulfill this, like, this thing, like, I want to make it this big next thing. I don't know.
Right.
Kind of rambling, but you see my point.
Yeah, I see your point. And, in the Palpatine, her being a Palpatine was actually pretty interesting to me at first.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was actually kind of a neat twist. But my problem with it is how it actually ended up turning out to be. Because when it was the idea that Palpatine, like, had a secret family and like what's the mystery behind that? What's the story with that? They could have told, I think, some interesting stuff there. But instead, that's not even really, she's not really like
right.
She's not even really Palpatine's granddaughter. She's actually
the daughter of a failed
clone. So you know what I mean? It's all just kind of weird.
Yeah. It's not even really truly a Palpatine. I mean, it kind of is, but it kind of isn't,
Well, yeah, and I mean, technically she's kind of more like his daughter in a sense.
Yeah, if anything else, it's like his daughter. Yeah,
more so
genetically speaking.
The whole like grandfather thing doesn't even really add up based off of the fact that it's a clone of him. So I don't know. It's all weird.
Which I know he raised the clone as a son type thing. That's kind of one thing they alluded to, is he kind of raised him as a son, but to replace him or be his like body double. I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Well, because he never had powers, they just got rid of him because he was a failure essentially.
Well, right, and that's getting off on a whole new subject. But I'm just saying that the fact that he was intentionally trying to raise him as a son initially was probably why they alluded to that. Although it wasn't like this big thing, like, oh, he's his son. Like, anyway, yeah. So looping back to the whole point. I think that it would be really cool, as you and I, as huge Kenobi fans, it would be cool to see that. But I do think it would have detracted from the story. But then again, I would, the fact of the matter is what they did do detracted from the story already. So he might as well get Kenobi, right?
Yeah, again, the fact that she wasn't a Skywalker, any other option was never going to make as much sense.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And even she was a nobody. I was never for that either. I know a lot of people liked the idea of her just being a nobody, but
yeah,
I think she needed to be a Skywalker.
Well, and again, it gives this beautiful message where anybody can be anything that they want. Like, okay, that's great, but do that story after the Skywalker saga. Do it along with the Skywalker. Don't interject that as the main bloodline of the Skywalker saga. Because that destabilizes the whole point of the saga.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we're kind of saying the same thing over and over again.
And one other thing I want to add is that, I mean, she technically could still be a Kenobi. Mm-hmm. Because we don't know her mother's bloodline.
Technically, yeah.
I mean, I know that's getting real crazy, and I don't think they'd ever do it. But if they ever choose to,
we called it right here on Star Wars.
If they ever did choose, they're like, actually, we do want her to still be related to Kenobi. They still have a way to do it.
Well, and here's the other thing, though. And as much as I love Obi-Wan, and I want to see him happy, we have to also recognize that if she's related to Kenobi, he's going to have to break his vow of celibacy, so to speak, and get a wife. Now, maybe you're thinking like after post episode 3, he's in the desert all alone. He's not technically a Jedi anymore. Maybe he could have a wife, but
listen,
if it's not Satine, it's nothing for me. So
I want Kenobi to have him a woman.
Oh yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong.
I think that when he went to Tatooine, he had him a woman there. And
Satine didn't die.
We just didn't see it. I mean, come on. The Jedi Order at that point had already messed up enough. He should at least find somebody to shack up with. No, like I don't think he did.
For me, it's Satine or nothing. If he can't have Satine, I don't.
Well, he's not going to get Satine, so.
But did she actually die? Okay, we're getting crazy now.
She did. She did.
I'm just saying, we're talking about some theories. I'm just saying.
One other thing that that I did want to say about Rey was that they also in that same interview asked if she could possibly ever return, and she said never say never.
Which is funny because she's the one that said that she would never
do it. So it makes me wonder if they're already talking to her.
Like we said, I think multiple times, but one of the first times we've ever talked about this, money talks. And,
right.
As Daisy Ridley, no offense to her, but her biggest role as of yet and probably will be is Star Wars. And what was it? The Star Wars curse or whatever, like Mark Hamill never got a really big role. Same thing with Ewan McGregor, same thing with Hayden Christensen, great, phenomenal actors, did great in Star Wars, but they never got a big role after that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I think Ewan McGregor's had some other fairly
he's had some
big
decent
roles.
stuff, but nothing as
maybe nothing as huge
consequential,
as Star Wars,
yeah.
but yeah, no, it's so true. So many of them don't really. There's a couple that continue on. I mean, of course, like Harrison Ford, who
he's the exception.
Of course, continued on to do some other really great roles, but had before Star Wars as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then there's like I think Adam Driver is somebody who's going to probably continue on to do.
He has the potential to.
I think he already has. I mean, he did Marriage Story, which was considered a pretty big hit. And that was, I think he was already finished filming Star Wars when he did that. Maybe I don't really remember, but
I don't know.
But yeah, I think what happens with a character like Rey is she says or with an actress like Daisy Ridley, she's saying, I'm done now. I'm going to go and do all this other projects. But the thing is, maybe there's not as many projects out there as she's
especially
thinking.
at this time in this
and
world.
It's going to eventually get to a point where they're like, hey, you can come back to Star Wars and we'll give you lots of money.
It's like drugs.
And, you know what I mean? And she's going to be like, okay, I'm coming back to Star Wars.
It's like drugs.
And so...
Just come back.
let's move on. We talked about that forever.
Very long time.
So, Marvel has officially kind of gave us a preview of Star Wars The High Republic issue number 1. We're finally kind of getting an idea of what this is going to be about. Now, what's interesting about this is Kevin Scott is the writer for this series. Interestingly enough, he is the one that normally does IDW stories. And so he's actually doing the main Marvel comic this time around. And we're kind of starting to see, he's got the main character in this, I'm not going to be able to get this name right.
This should be good.
Let's see. Padawan Keeve is what it looks like.
Doubt it.
So, probably not, but it says, we find the fierce young Padawan Keeve focused on her training and trying to prove herself to her teacher, the Trandoshan Jedi Master Skier.
Interesting.
Who seems to have experienced a very common problem in Star Wars. He's missing an arm.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Star Wars loves taking arms off. But interesting enough, though, Trandoshan Jedi? That's interesting.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool.
Pretty interesting.
And so in this preview, we get the first few pages, and we get a look at this master and apprentice in action as Key begins her Jedi trial under the watchful gaze of her master Skier. But of course, not everything goes to plan. As we know, some big stuff goes down. I'm assuming all of these stories probably start off around the same time as this big event that happens, and so we see it from all these different perspectives. Is my guess. I don't know if that's how it's going to work or not. And then they kind of branch off into their own story, like the stories go off their own ways. But I have a feeling they're all going to start in that similar spot with this big moment.
Yeah,
right.
I agree.
Do you agree with that? That's kind of where we're
yeah,
headed?
I mean, I think that's kind of what it's it's hinging on. They have like a lot of like loose ends, so to speak, at the very beginning. Is kind of scattered, is kind of small, but then all focalizes upon the event. The disaster, great disaster, or whatever it is.
I can't remember exactly what they call it.
Yeah, I think it's something like the Great Disaster,
something
right?
like that. Yeah.
And then
you guys know what we're talking about.
yeah. Anyway, so then boom. All of a sudden now, all these stories have this focal point, a foundation to base themselves off of,
right?
And then kind of
reach out, all branches out into different. Yeah. So that's kind of the way I think this is all going to turn out. But anyways, you can go and see a couple pages of that story, and I think in the cover of the comic we have we have the Padawan there and her master on the left, and then on the right is that the main girl that we see on the cover of the High Republic novel.
Do you have the picture? 'Cause I don't know.
Avar Kriss, is that her name?
Yeah.
Right here. This right here. One of these days, folks, we're gonna have video, and maybe we can start.
Yes, that's gonna be a big thing that we're gonna have.
Yeah, I think that might be her.
She's a blonde girl.
She's a blonde, and she's got that little jewel.
So
on
it very
her,
well could be.
Her head.
I just don't remember the jewel being there on the actual picture, but maybe it is.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I think it's her because look, I think she does have a little jewel there.
Which each artist's iteration will probably be
right. She's probably gonna look a little different. Actually, she does have like a little thing on her head, but it doesn't look like it's an actual blue jewel like it is in the comic. But again, that might just be artist's interpretation, and so that might be why it's different. But
a lot of other actual pictures of Avar Kriss that we know for a fact, it's kind of like a gold pendant diamond thing.
Right.
You know, who knows?
But we do know she's going to be a very important character in all of this, all of this in the High Republic.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
So anyways, it's our first look at it, so go and check that out. It looks basically it kind of shows them kind of doing some training together, and I'm excited to get the High Republic started.
Oh man, yeah, I'm very excited for the High Republic. That's gonna be a whole new era, a whole new section of Star Wars that we've never explored before. It's exciting stuff. It's
really exciting.
Yeah, I don't know what we're gonna do, but we'll probably have some big thing going on around that time, whatever it may be.
For sure.
Hopefully we have video up by then. I'm sure we will, but we can't
we should
make any promises.
We're not gonna make any promises, but hopefully we will.
Yeah,
and just as we're heading into our rumor section now, but before we do that, just so you guys know, we're only like 3 weeks away from Star Wars Squadrons, and so. Be prepared for that because we are planning to do some streaming of that. We'll be doing some first impressions, eventually do a review on it, but we'll also just be doing Let's Plays, and you guys can just watch that, maybe even play with us as we do it. So
and you can see firsthand how bad I am at dogfight games.
As am I.
Well, there's also, on a side note, I know we're getting a lot of side notes. We're 30 minutes into it, and we haven't gotten into our rumors yet. We're just having a good time today, I guess. Yeah. I don't know. But this one, if you're not good at dogfight games like me, you're probably going to be terrible at this game, as I probably will be. Because, you have to, you can control the deflector shields, and you can, divert power to,
it's going to be a disaster.
It's going to be a disaster, but it's
and everyone's going to be laughing at
Not only do you not know Star Wars stuff, you're horrible at video games.
Not only can you not name any Star Wars character, if their name's not Obi-Wan Kenobi.
What's Skywalker or something? I don't know.
Skywalker, Han Skywalker?
Yeah, Starkiller, I don't know, whatever.
Starkiller, yeah.
Anyway, so let's go ahead and move on to our first rumor. We only have 2 today, so that'll only be about 20 minutes, I'm sure. So anyway. So... we was literally talking about this for episode, okay, let's just make this a little more short today, a little more bite-sized.
I don't even know why we try.
I don't know why we can try. Anyway, so rumors for this week. The first one is there was a quote from Grace Randolph, and I have the article here. I can read it. But Grace Randolph, I'm not exactly sure, Drew, what her qualifications are. Do you know off the top of your head, who she's from? Because you was telling me about this. Is it Screen Rant?
I can tell you in a second.
Basically,
just go ahead. I'll tell you.
Anyway, basically, Grace Randolph, she's had a lot of good things. She's kind of trustworthy with her Star Wars news. Long story short, she is quoted that the Mandalorian trailer, so this is rumors, was delayed due to reshoots. So they had kind of decided last minute, they had a trailer. They was going to air it. And that's why everyone was so confident, because they actually did have a trailer that they were going to air. At the last minute, some things came up, and they had to reshoot. Furthermore, though, it was also due to big problems, quote unquote, during mid-shooting of the season that have already been taken care of. So I actually have her quote.
Yeah, so Grace Randolph is the creator and host of Beyond the Trailer on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
And and she has leaked information in the past that has been very accurate. So there's a lot of places saying that if she's saying this, there is a good chance that it is real.
Yeah, so the article says Randolph offers that Disney isn't at all happy with the first trailer for Season 2 and that it needs reshoots and needs to be re-edited. And Randolph also adds that there will be some sort of shift halfway through the season. which has to do with issues surrounding the show. The good news, at least, is that it sounds like Disney is trying to make The Mandalorian the best that it can be by hopefully fixing the potential problems with the show.
Yeah, so what kind of problems are we talking
exactly.
about? This
What
is the
could
first I've ever
possibly
heard about this.
Same here.
This is very interesting because, listen, we know something's up, right? There's no... I mean, I don't think there's any way that it was intentional for it to be this long before we got a trailer.
Yeah. There's obvious. So apparently, there's obvious reasons as to why.
Well, and we talked about they wanted to do some Ahsoka stuff. We've heard maybe that was the reason they wanted to add some different shots of Ahsoka in the trailer. But even then, but what's more interesting than anything to me about this is this issue that came up, and that it changed the direction of the show mid-season.
Yeah, I'm trying to read through some of her tweets here to see if she provides any further explanation. But yeah, I mean, until I find something, just in my own thoughts, it has to be something pretty significant to cause an entire shift in storytelling.
Right.
To me, that means a major character had to drop out, meaning the actor, his or herself, couldn't be there anymore, didn't want to be there anymore, fired. Who knows? I
mean, maybe Baby Yoda just decided he wasn't getting paid enough.
Maybe
Yoda's like, no, I'm dropping out. I'm not getting
Baby
enough.
Yoda had a contract dispute. Oh my gosh.
He's like, come on, you're paying Daisy Ridley way more than me.
We all want to see Baby Yoda way more than Daisy Ridley.
Why do I sound like I'm dying of an asthma attack every time I laugh today?
That's how you've laughed your entire life.
It's true though. It's so true. My poor little asthma self. But yeah, anyway. Baby Yoda's just like, no, I'm dropping out.
Yeah, that's probably what it is. And if it is,
No, I think
I don't know what's going to happen to myself.
I think either maybe there could be some dispute with somebody that was involved, but I would say more so than anything, what may have happened is that Lucasfilm decided to go a different direction with just overall Star Wars. So
yeah,
so let's say
we saw that with Kenobi as well to some degree, right?
So let's say like they were like, okay, we're doing kind of what we did for the first season. We're focusing on Mandalorian. He's going on these little adventures. Each episode is its own little adventure, right? What if about halfway through they said, no, we want to do this over. We want to do this really big story that everyone intertwines and connects, and we're going to do this. These characters are going to go off do their series. This character's going to do off this series. So you got to change your story to fit that and to help with that.
Well,
that's what I wonder.
So there's two tweets here. So basically, someone had asked a question or proposed something, and then Grace Randolph came back and said something. This person says, "What about the Mandalorian season 2 having huge problems?" Question mark. Grace Randolph says, "I said it had capital one big problem, which Disney believes they fixed. We'll see how fans feel." And then the second tweet says, "Curious," and this is the person posing the question or whatever, "curious as to what you mean by shift, like a creative shift in the season, tonal shift?" Question mark. And Grace Randolph comes back and says, "I believe focal shift on the characters, unless they were able to fix it in post." The plot thickens.
See, I think again, I still think that kind of supports what I'm saying, because it's one or the other. Maybe they focused too much on, maybe they weren't focusing enough on the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda, and they decided we need to be focusing more on their story.
That's what really made it popular.
Or it's the other way around. They were focusing on Baby Yoda, and they're like, we want more Ahsoka. We want more, you know what I mean? I could see it being something like that.
Yeah, it very well could be, because the funny thing is when we was reading earlier about in the article about season 2, it says I think it was Filoni that made a point to say, "Oh, this is going to have bigger and better stories. It's going to get crazy, yet it's still going to focus on Baby Yoda and the Mandalorian." So it makes it sound like he's trying to justify, like, hey, big stuff's happening, but we're still focusing on the core stuff too.
Yeah.
So it very well could have been that way. They kind of strayed too far away from, Din Djarin and the child, and they were like, well, we need to rope this back a little bit. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
I guess we really won't figure out truly until the season airs.
Yeah, and I'm definitely gonna be watching for that now.
Yeah,
as we're watching this, I'm definitely gonna be waiting about that halfway point,
episode 4
and see like,
Yeah.
Does something shift? Does something change? Do we notice like a dramatic? You know, I'm going to be very curious.
Yeah. What could it be? Yeah. So anywhere between episode 3 and episode 6 in that range, there's probably going to be something happen.
And maybe this is all totally wrong. That's also a possibility. We are in rumors, folks. This could be false. Grace Randolph could be wrong.
Yeah,
it is a possibility.
Really confident.
She does seem confident about it. But it's only a matter of time. We don't have that much longer, so we'll see what happens. But let's go on to our last one here. And to be honest, guys, this maybe is not necessarily a rumor, but we didn't know where to put it, so we put it here. Because we wanted to talk about it.
We didn't know what to do with it. So.
But we can kind of go into rumor territory as we're talking about it. But I just thought this was great. Again, this was when they were like talking with Entertainment Weekly about Mandalorian Season 2. And Favreau said that George Lucas was on set for the season, just like he was for Season 1. And Favreau says that Lucas would be giving Dave Filoni a hard time. He said he would be giving Dave a hard time about how many setups he was getting and how fast he was shooting and urging him to go faster. He was like a boxer's cornerman coaching him, but always with a twinkle in his eyes.
It's like the Star Wars Santa Claus.
So I really like that.
That's so good. Well, I mean, that's like his little mentor, or excuse me, mentee, I guess.
Yeah, like that's he's everything he knows is from George Lucas. So.
Yeah, exactly.
And I have to say, what I like about this is that George Lucas may not have, he sold Star Wars off, all that. And we saw very clearly in the sequel trilogy, George Lucas was not involved. And
it definitely wasn't his stories either.
And it was definitely not, right.
Even Kathleen Kennedy said that.
Right. But what we're seeing here, and it showed in the Mandalorian Season 1, I truly do believe it showed, is that George Lucas is involved. He is maybe not super involved, but I think that Filoni's coming to Lucas and saying, what do you think about this? What do you think about...
Well, the cool thing is, it may have been in the behind-the-scenes show or whatever. I don't remember if that was right even before Season 1 even came out, but Filoni, I remember him saying that we wanted to dial this back, Filoni and Favreau, and we wanted to see, what is the feeling that the original Star Wars had, that it was kind of like a space western, and that's kind of the direction they wanted to go with it, and I thought that was pretty cool. Like, it's not even just the themes, but it's just the core elements that made the OG trilogy what it was. Yeah, which I thought that was pretty cool.
And I think something to remember here is that something about George Lucas, his print on Star Wars does matter. We can make fun of some of his decisions all day long if we want, and we do. Like Jar Jar Binks and some things in the prequels and different things. Some episodes of the Clone Wars, there are things to make fun of. There are things to really question. But at the same time, we also can't forget the amazing...
But he's the one that created this.
Right, he's amazing things that he has created.
I mean, you can say what you want, but he's the guy who made Star Wars, you know.
And anything that George Lucas is involved in has a certain magic to it.
Oh, yeah.
That even goes for The Mandalorian. There's a magic to The Mandalorian that the sequel trilogy does not have.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. There's a lot about the sequel trilogy I do enjoy. But there's something missing from that The Mandalorian does have.
Yeah, I agree.
And that we did not see in that sequel trilogy. And so the fact that he's still involved, the fact that they're treating him as a creative support there, I think it's good.
I 100% agree. I couldn't agree more. In fact, if you want to make Star Wars what people love, bring in the guy who made it, who came up with it. The guy who made the ideas and the characters and the universe that people fell in love with originally. Having him there is only going to make it more closely aligned to what people fell in love with. You know, I mean, it only makes sense.
So I'm excited to hear that. I'm glad he's involved in it, to be honest. And
absolutely,
we will we'll see how it goes.
Yeah,
I'm excited. But let's jump into our releases. And for releases this coming week, we have 2 comic issues that are coming out on this coming Wednesday, and that is Star Wars issue 6 and Darth Vader issue 5. Both of these I'm very excited for. We have very big story plot moments that could have major implications. for the future of Star Wars in both of these comics. So I'm very, very excited to get my hands on these on Wednesday, and you can guarantee I will be sharing my thoughts next episode. Not any spoilers just yet, but we will eventually get to that as well as these wrap up. But very excited for that. I do also want to mention that last episode we talked about the Star Wars Adventures annual comic, and last minute they decided to postpone that. So not sure why. Sometimes comics are weird like that.
They heard your comments. They didn't. They were like, "Oh man, Andrew's not excited. We gotta,
we gotta rewrite the whole thing. Put Obi-Wan Kenobi in it."
Front of the cover. Oh my god.
So, anyways, right now it's listed for October 7th, but I'm not convinced that's actually like a set date. I wonder if maybe that's just kind of something they've thrown out there for now. But that's in the world of comics, they can postpone them so fast. They can move the dates so fast.
It's all
and like I said, that was done like right after. I think it was like the next day after we recorded our podcast. So I just wanted to clear that up for any of you that may have been trying to look for it and it wasn't there. So that will actually be later. I'll let you know exactly when that does come out. But until then, that's all we got for this week.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, so we're going to go ahead quickly into our Q&A. We're running pretty late today, but forgive us. We're going to get through our Q&A here, and then we're going to get into our main topic. But like I said, as you guys know, we try to do 3 questions, topics, and suggestions a week that we get from you all through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, wherever you may be found. And we're going to go ahead and answer those this week. We're excited. We love it. And we're going to jump right in. So this week's first question was actually in the queue from last week, and it comes from JB himself, Josh in Birkinshaw, who asked, given that Mandalorian 2 is just around the corner, and so is Star Wars Squadrons, what are you looking forward to the most in these 2 releases, and what, if any, are your fears, such as could they spoil something, blah, 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 that sort of thing? So, Drew, right off the bat, what is something that you're really excited for in Season 2 of Mandalorian and Star Wars Squadrons, and what are some things that you may be worried about at all?
Well, I'm really excited for Mandalorian just because it's more Star Wars. You know, this will be the next big Star Wars story since Clone Wars wrapped up. So, of course, very excited for that reason. I'm very excited for Squadrons because I love video games and I love Star Wars. So the 2 mixing together is always a good thing for me.
Yeah.
And one of the big reasons, honestly, that I'm super excited for that game is because we are going to play it together, and we're going to play it for you guys, and it's going to be kind of a new adventure for us. So very excited for that reason.
Yeah. So is there anything that you're fearful of in any of these 2, whatever that may be for you?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Well, okay. Let me jump to like what my positive things are. We can go to our fears. Okay. So same thing for me. I mean, I'm honestly right on top with you there. Mandalorian, I'm super excited because it is a great story that I've thoroughly enjoyed. And I'm excited to see how some of these characters progress, especially like Baby Yoda. Like, I just want to see, it's just so bizarre, it's so new that with like Din Djarin, you know, that's awesome. I want to see what happens to him and stuff. But with Baby Yoda, like where does it go from here? You know what I'm saying? Like, this is the first time we've ever seen like a baby in Yoda species and stuff. Anyway, so I'm excited to see that progress. I do have some fears in that, but we'll get to that. And same thing for Squadron. I'll be honest with you, although it is Star Wars and video games, which I both thoroughly love and enjoy, I don't know that this is something that I would normally be super excited about, just because I just don't love dogfight games that much, because I suck at them and I don't like doing things I suck at. So
right.
But I will say again, I'm excited because A, this is something you guys are excited for, and B, something that Drew and I get to play together and try to live stream and do Let's Plays and things of that nature, which is something I want to do for a very, very long time. And if it can be Star Wars related, it's even better. So
yeah, it's gonna be an interesting adventure.
Very interesting. You know, with Let's Plays, you know, we can edit out our 1,000 deaths and our 2 kills and put those at the front. You know, but with live streams, you really can't do that.
So. We're gonna live stream it, so
right. So in terms of fears on that one, I don't really have any. On Mandalorian, so let's just jump to our fears. On Mandalorian, my fear, I don't have a bunch, but I will just say that for the Mandalorian, I am afraid. Just as excited as I am to see how the story progresses, I'm a little afraid too, because since there is no, how do I say this? There is no precedent. We don't know what happens to them anything that can be done, Din Djarin could just die. Baby Yoda could just die. And we will never really know that for sure. So it's kind of like, pins and needles. Like, what are we going to see? And also, how will anything that happens in season 2 with, Moff Gideon, him trying to extract the Force from the child, how is that going to affect the Star Wars universe and lore? So I don't know that's necessarily a fear, but it is like a kind of concern, like, because, anything that happens, either A, can kill off awesome characters, or B, it can have some pretty serious implications regarding the Force in the Star Wars universe. So, what are some fears for you regarding Squadrons first and then Mandalorian?
So Squadrons, I don't really know that I have any fears.
Right.
I just like you said, I'm not super big on that type of game. I'm very bad at them as well. So I already know this game is not necessarily made for me. So I won't really say I have fears for it, though, because my fears for that game are not what the average
my fears would be like
person who would enjoy
it's
it
gonna
would
stink.
be. So
I'm gonna stink, and that's gonna,
yeah, that's my biggest fear for it. So I don't really have any.
Right.
But for Mandalorian, my concern is that we get a lot of filler.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point.
That would be my biggest concern, because that was my biggest complaint with the first season. Is there was a lot of what I would consider filler in it.
Right.
Some of that ended up feeling a little less filler by the end, because some of it kind of came back around and meant a little more. There's still a lot that just didn't necessarily feel like it needed to be in there. It felt kind of like an episode of the Clone Wars or something, you know what I mean?
Well, that whole one where they had to defend that village or whatever, that was like straight from an episode of Clone Wars. I mean, that was literally like carbon copy.
I'm really hoping this season that we kind of have more of an important story we follow throughout each episode.
Every episode, yeah.
And my other fear, though, is that maybe we've kind of focused too much on other characters, and we lose the heart of the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda together. We kind of lose the heart of the story.
And that could be the focal shift.
And that could be the focal shift, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's just something we'll have to see. But I do worry about that a little bit, because if we start getting Ahsoka involved in all these characters, don't get me wrong, it'd be cool. But like if we start focusing on all of that and we lose the emotional impact of seeing these two together, and I just think that could maybe hurt it in the long run. If this, I guess to put it in a little simpler terms, my fear would be that the show ends up just being a beginning point for all these other shows.
Right.
Like if it ends up just being the focus to start a bunch of other shows.
Like they basically started this entire show just to be the foundation for other ones. And it's like, and then so like you said, it kind of completely loses the meaning of what we're even doing here.
Yeah. And so I that would be my two fears for this.
Yeah.
I have great faith that that's not going to be the case.
Agreed.
But I do have a little bit of uneasiness there.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
Okay, so let's first of all, Josh and JB, my man, thank you for the question. We appreciate that. Great question too. We'll go ahead into our second question, which comes from Jordan Fake, who says, "I recently read where Yoda foresaw in visions Order 66, but he didn't do anything until it was too late. Do you think his philosophies, specifically his philosophy that Jedi shouldn't trust too much in future visions, do you think those philosophies caused the downfall of the Jedi and kept them from their highest potential?" I will say for myself, absolutely. Absolutely. Because what are the Jedi without the Force? Guys with lightsabers, which that's still pretty cool, but but Jedi are Force wielders, light Force wielders. They bring balance to the Force by bringing continuity to the light side of the Force. They are enveloped with the Force. I don't know how to harp that any stronger. And when Yoda, and this is just my personal opinion, although I loved Yoda, when he came into his later years, he was more rooted in the right here, the right now, and even looked down upon people like Qui-Gon Jinn, who were more mystical, delved into the Force. Yeah. We see Yoda as the best Force wielder and stuff, but he used the Force very practically. Yeah. He needed to pull something. He needed to push something. He needed to lift something. But he didn't deep dive into visions and filling out the Force and getting into the living Force. He never did any of that. And again, so I guess my point, I don't want to take too long on this, but my point is that what are the Jedi without the Force? And if you can't trust the visions of the Force, which are naturally light, which are naturally trying to lead you to the right thing, then yes, you are going to fail. And and where Fig is getting this from is from the Clone Wars. I can't even remember what it's called actually off the top of my head, but the Clone Wars
Tales of Light and Dark.
Yes, Tales of Light and Dark, the very first chapter, which actually I said was my favorite, one of my favorite ones. So basically at the very end, and actually I can read it to you because I think I pulled it up. But Yoda saying, "Made for war these children were," referring to the clones. Yoda reflected, "Made by the millions, disposable their makers consider them." Blah, 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 blah. Keeps going on. Talks how there's like a slight Force presence within them.
You should have read it in his voice. I'm disappointed that you didn't do it.
Another presence. One that felt like... I can't do it today. But anyway, one that felt like a
do it in Miss Piggy's voice. You can do that.
No,
you can do that any day.
That's...
Come on.
Another presence. One that felt like a vast storm in the Force. Full of malice and greed, Kermie. It's Piggy.
It's so good.
Anyway, I don't know why. Like, I can do so many impressions very mediocrely. Andrew always goes to Miss Piggy. I don't know why it is. Anyway,
it's my favorite.
But anyway, another presence, one that felt like a vast storm in the Force, full of malice and greed, basically alluding to the fact that he recognizes, being Yoda, recognizes that these were made by somebody, and the intention behind them was malice and greed in the Force. So yeah, I agree. I mean, I do think that absolutely it did cause the downfall of the Jedi because they got away from their roots and they became more dogmatic and more invested in militaristic.
Yeah. Well, and we also see
endeavors.
in the Clone Wars and in the lost episodes or whatever that Netflix did.
Mm-hmm.
We see Yoda. He kind of gets some hints of the future there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Starts to see some things. So Yoda knew that there were issues. Yoda knew something bad
but
was
never
on the
really
horizon.
acted upon it. Yeah.
But he didn't really. No, he didn't really act upon it. But he didn't. He never. I don't think he ever truly knew exactly what was going to happen. You know, and so there's always that as well. But yeah, they also, they felt like they shouldn't trust their visions because it was a pull to the dark side, and so yeah, it's. I mean, could Yoda have prevented some of it if he had dived into it more? Possibly.
Yeah,
but he
it's
didn't.
Possible.
So
yeah, he didn't even try. So it is kind of. I mean, yeah. I mean, it absolutely. You're absolutely right, Fig. It's just one of those things where because after 900 years of living in it, and he's just got too practical. He and the Jedi as an order. Overall became too dogmatic, militaristic, and got away from the roots of who they were, and therefore it caused them to fail. So, great question. Fantastic question, actually. So thank you for asking. Our last and final comment comes from Alex Mason, who says, "I think you guys should have a lightsaber battle and video it for us."
Well, Alex,
We've had
many lightsaber battles.
Honestly, as we were children when we last had our final lightsaber battle. And as good as a child can be, we were actually pretty stinking good. I'm not gonna lie. In fact, I'm not gonna tell it, but there was a whole story of Drew moving to an apartment and was there for a year or two or whatever when I was younger, and the new kids came outside while we were lightsaber battling with one another and acting as if we were, Star Wars characters and whatnot. And they acted like they want to fight us. And so they tried and we destroyed them. So, I mean, we actually, one of them started crying, because we were just whooping up on them and they started crying, ran inside and blah, blah, blah. Anyway.
Oh, wow. Now we just sound like big bullies.
No, they wanted to fight us.
That's true.
And it was 3 against 2, if you remember correctly.
I do remember.
All 3 of them against 2 of us. Yeah. Anyway, so we were pretty good as children. I don't know, I don't even know how many years it would be now later. If
it was a long time
translates, ago. But...
well, and also, it's also been videoed because... we went to the Force Awakens together the opening night. We had to wait in a really big long line. It was cold outside. The line went all the way outside, and we dressed up in full Jedi robes.
We did.
And
Yes.
had lightsabers. And we started having a lightsaber fight.
I forgot about that.
We started having a lightsaber fight in the theater, and people were videoing us. So people have videos of that somewhere.
So I lied. I didn't realize. I forgot that that our last bout
that was
of
our last
battling
battle,
happened much sooner than I remembered.
Yeah, and that people were videoing us.
People were videoing us. We don't have that video.
I'm sure. Look up like two dorks fighting on
YouTube. Morons.
Two dorks fighting his Jedi or something. I don't know, on YouTube. Maybe we'll show up.
Yeah, two ugly slobs. I don't know. So I don't know that we could do it now, but yeah, it's happened in the past, and there's probably videos. So let's see here. Oh, and the last thing he says is also, how about the Mandalorian Season 2 trailer? So amazing. I know that's sarcasm.
Yeah,
I can sense it through the computer. No, I don't know, man. It's pretty sad. I don't know. We're waiting on it, but it's going to come soon, I'm sure.
Maybe one of these days. Maybe one of these days it'll come.
Yeah.
But do you have anything else you want to say about that?
I'm good. I'm good. So,
well, we did have a main topic for you guys today, but we're actually going to cut it short now because this main topic might actually take a little bit. We're going to eventually do a spoiler review on the novel Star Wars Dark Legends, and there's actually a lot to take in there, a lot to discuss. So we want to do it when we have plenty of time. Don't feel like we have to rush through it.
Like an hour and 1 minute right now.
Yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and save that for another time. So that being said, if you want to go ahead and grab that book, read it over this next week. It's not very long, so you could easily do it, and then you can kind of be a part of the discussion in that. But I will go ahead and say it's an extremely good book. I really, really like this book, and there's a lot to discuss with it. So, with that being said, we want to thank you guys so much for the continued support towards us. Please like and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for weekly news, polls, discussions, and more. Please also follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and leave a review. And I just want to say again that you guys have been so good to us the past couple of weeks.
Oh, yeah.
Just amazing that you guys have taken the time to do our giveaway, review us, and leave all your kind comments. And also, I just want to say, it's amazing when you think about it that these people that we've never met before have taken the time to share our things, to spread love and support for us.
Oh, yeah.
And, just out of the kindness of their hearts. They don't owe us anything,
Yeah.
And so it's really amazing that you guys do that for us, and we thank you so much for that.
Absolutely.
But yeah, we thank you for listening, and join us next week for episode 32. But until next time, may the Force be with you, and we thank you for joining the Jedi Eternal.